The NFL draft is all about evaluating players fairly, projecting them without bias to the next level. However, we're all human, and anyone who scouts any of these prospects can't help but just fall in love with certain players. I'm absolutely no exception. So here are 6 my guys. Now, these aren't the best or first round players or even sleepers or unknown prospects. They're simply players that I love. So let's get into it. The biggest my guy for me, I think, in this whole draft process, essentially my favorite player, is TreVeyon Henderson, the running back from Ohio State. And he's a my guy simply because he is lightning in a bottle. He's got the traits of an electric running back. He's got the production and the highlight reel to rival anyone. I don't see how you can't not love this guy. He's absolutely deadly quick. Yes, he only ran a 4.43 at the 40, but I think his play speed is much faster than that. He was running around a safety who was on the numbers. And when I say he ran around them to the sideline. Like, the space that this guy eats up and the stress that he puts on defenses as a result is just absolutely unbelievable. He's so explosive, which is what I absolutely love in a running back. He's that home run threat. He's a threat to score from anywhere on the field. We saw him do that against Texas, against Tennessee, against Oregon. All of those games are also in the playoffs. So he's a big game player as well. He's a threat with the ball in his hands, both in the ground game as a rusher and in the receiving game as a receiver. He's a true modern running back because of that. And he's got fantastic ball security. 0 fumbles in 491 total attempts. And what really puts the cherry on top for me of TreVeyon Henderson and why I love him so much is because he's so good in pass pro as well. Yes, he's a bit shorter at 5'10", 202 pounds, but this guy hits well above his weight. So much so that he even put Mason Graham, one of the best defensive tackles in this class, if not the best, on the ground when he chipped him. He's super physical. He puts his helmet right in their chest. He really gives it his all in pass pro. He's not just about the stats on the ground. This guy cares and wants to protect his quarterback. I think he's just so damn good. Now, yes, despite all of these guys being my guys, my favorite players in this draft class, for the sake of fairness, I am still going to go over their weaknesses because no player, not even TreVeyon Henderson, is completely perfect. With Henderson, his biggest weakness is that despite his good yards after contact stats, he's not really a tackle breaker. He's not going to break tackles at the next level. You want him operating in space, not operating in a phone booth. And he is also smaller in size at only 5'10", 202 pounds. And when he's been that bell cow running back, he's also picked up some injuries. So obviously this year at Ohio State, it was him and Quinshon Judkins, his teammate, splitting carries, and as a result, Henderson never had more than 15 touches in a game this season. And Judkins was a massive part of that Ohio State ground game, and I think really that he's not going to be drafted to be a bell cow. And frankly, I don't think you should draft him to be a bell cow. I think we've seen the best of Henderson, which is when he's in this split backfield setup. But this is my biggest thing with TreVeyon Henderson. I don't think he should be drafted to be a bell cow running back. We've seen him at his best in that Ohio State backfield with another great complementary running back. So I think a team that he'd be great for would be, say, the Chargers with Najee Harris, where he can be that lightning to Harris's thunder. And as a result, I think a lot of people are seeing where I'm going here, and it's not a new comp by any means, but I do see a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs to Henderson's game. And I think he can be that Jahmyr Gibbs-esque running back. He's an absolute my guy, and I think if you put him in that kind of line situation where he can be that kind of scat back operating in space and you've got someone that can run between the tackles as that complementary option, then you're going to get a fantastic running back. And why I love Henderson so much is because Gibbs was drafted with a top half of the first round pick. You can get TreVeyon Henderson, I think, in the second round. And if you're getting a Jahmyr Gibbs-esque player in the second round, you're getting a damn good player. So TreVeyon Henderson, big my guy. My second my guy is Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State. And he's a my guy simply because he's not just a tight end. He's an offensive Swiss Army knife. Yes, he's 6'6", 255 pounds, so he can line up as a traditional Y inline tight end. And he did that 338 times this year. But he also lined up in the slot as a slot receiver 228 times. He lined up out wide as a wide receiver 69 times. He lined up as a running back in the backfield 62 times. He lined up as a quarterback 33 times. He also lined up as a fullback and as a center where he scored a touchdown. This guy can genuinely play almost every single offensive position. He's also super dynamic with the ball in his hands for 16 missed tackles this year and an extra 7 missed tackles as a rusher. He also has really strong strong hands in contested catch situations, 73.3% contested catch rate. That is absolutely bonkers. A good contested catch rate is like 60-40. To be anywhere in the 70s is just a different level entirely. Yes, he also has his weaknesses. He does have drops historically, which have been an issue. 16.7% in 2022, 15% drop rate in 2023. That has gone down to 2.2% in 2024, but drops are volatile and they could, in theory, come back. He also has good speed, but definitely not great. He's not going to burn defenses up the seams, which a lot of teams want from their tight end. And I think his blocking technique is a bit hit and miss. He can be a bit of a reckless blocker. It definitely needs refining. But, and this might be quite controversial, and I know Brett Coleman's with me, but I know Mike Brenner's against me, so it's definitely dividing opinion. Personally, I think Brock Bowers was the better overall prospect, right? Brock Bowers' receiving ability was just a different level. But I think as a tight end prospect, I think Tyler Warren is better. I think he can play that traditional tight end role and then give you a lot of other stuff in the receiving game. Whereas I think Brock Bowers can't do quite as much as an inline blocker. I think you could get Tyler Warren to try and dig out a defensive lineman or block linebackers. I don't think you'd really ask Brock Bowers to do that. So I do think Brock Bowers is better, but I think Tyler Warren is just a bit behind him. That's how high I am on Tyler Warren, and I was really high on Brock Bowers. Tyler Warren is my 6th overall player, by the way, on my big board, so I love this guy. And I think that any team that drafts him is going to get an immediate impact. That guy that can play that Brock Bowers role, can be moved all over the offensive formation, be that mismatch weapon, which is so valuable in the modern NFL. And I'm so confident that whatever team Tyler Warren goes to, he is going to absolutely light it up. My third my guy is Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU. And he's a my guy because arm length be damned, he is a rock solid prospect who really, I think at this point in the process, needs a little bit more love. Yes, we're going to have the conversation about his arm length, but first of all, we need to acknowledge his strengths. And that is he has been so good now for 3 years as a starter for LSU. He's not allowed a sack in 2 years. He's got good size, got good athleticism. He's fluid and agile at that size. He's solid as a run and as a pass blocker. I think he's got really good hand usage and good footwork. I think he's really smart, got good game IQ with those stunts and blitzes, and he's often left on an island at LSU to block against the best pass rushers that LSU go against. And I think that's really helped his game improve to be pro-ready. But let's talk about the arm length, because that's what has become the overwhelming narrative when discussing Will Campbell. And yes, at the Combine, they came in short, 32 7/8 inches, which is below the threshold of that 33-inch arm length, which I think a lot of NFL teams do have. And arm length is undeniably a important factor for playing offensive line, right? We saw Jalix Hunt, a 3rd-round player, kind of dog on Joe Tooney, who's a fantastic guard, but he was playing at tackle with short arms. Joe Tooney also has 32-inch arms. And it was simply a question of physics, right? If a defensive lineman's arms are longer, they can get into your chest, they can control the rep easier than if you can't get into theirs. And also, he has a small wingspan, which is also just as concerning. Now, that will have a lot of NFL teams projecting him as a guard. And I don't disagree that I think he would be a fantastic guard. And I think this year at LSU, we did see him kind of struggle against speed around the edge, and his production and his play did take a bit of a step back. But fundamentally, he's shown that he can play left tackle. That's what he's done for the last 3 years at LSU. Before the arm length concerns, no one was coming out and saying, I think Will Campbell's got short arms. So I don't know why this is becoming so much of a focus point, because I think, yes, you're not going to take a pure guard with a top 10 pick for the most part. However, I think with Will Campbell, I think it's still well worth the role, because I personally would play this guy at tackle until he shows me that he can't. And Dane Brugler has said that's what a lot of NFL teams are looking at. It's come out recently that Mike Vrabel of the New England Patriots are looking at Campbell as a left tackle, and as they should. This guy should play left tackle until you've seen reason to suggest otherwise. And that's the thing with Will Campbell and why he's a my guy. Because even if he doesn't work out at tackle, you are getting a damn good guard. And is that as valuable as tackle? No, it's not. But offensive line is a weak link position, and even having a fantastic guard can massively increase a team's offensive output. And as well, it means that positional flexibility that Campbell does have, being able to play tackle and almost definitely being able to play a fantastic level of guard, is that it allows a team to get their best 5 offensive linemen out there. Say you're the Bears at 10, and you still draft Will Campbell, even after they added all of their 3 interior offensive linemen, Joe Tooney, Drew Dalman, Jonah Jackson, and they have their left tackles and they have their left and right tackle. You can get your best 5 offensive linemen on the field, which is so valuable in itself. So for me with Will Campbell, I think he's a really safe prospect. I would definitely play him at tackle until he shows me that he can't. And even in that worst case scenario where you have to move him to guard, you're getting a damn good guard. My 4th my guy is Malaki Starks, and this one's probably the simplest reason of them all. I love good football players, and I think Malaki Starks is one of the best football players in this class. He's that true modern safety. You can align this guy anywhere. He had 190 snaps in the box, 252 snaps as a slot cornerback, 385 snaps as a free safety. He manned up against Luther Burden, one of the shiftiest slot receivers in this class, from the slot in 2023, and did a fantastic job in covering him. I think Malaki Starks, second only to Travis Hunter, has the best game IQ in this class. He's so smart, so cerebral, 3-year starter at Georgia, and that experience and that game understanding shows rep after rep. He's versatile, he can fit into most schemes with that ability to play in the slot and be that safety role, and he can be an immediate impact player as a result. He's a really physical and reliable tackler, and he absolutely killed it at the combine, not on the field drills like the 40, but in the chip times when they're doing the drills, right? Game speed is tested better not on the 40 when they're running in a straight line, which very few players have to just run in a straight line in any real game scenario. And what they have now through Next Gen Stats are chips on all the players that track their data, their speed, their acceleration and things like that when doing on-field drills. And he absolutely killed it in those on-field drills in terms of his speed. And Brett Coleman was there, and he said he had such quiet feet that he couldn't hear. So I'm coming up with the nickname now, and I'm stealing this from cricket. My American audience, you probably don't know much about cricket, but there's a bowler called Michael Holding who had a really long run-up, which is when you're a bowler, you have to have a run-up to bowl the ball at the batsman. And his was so long, and he was a sprinter. And the umpire who's standing at the stumps obviously isn't looking at the bowler, they're looking at the batsman. And he took such a long run-up and had such quiet feet that umpires had to turn over their shoulder and see if he was coming. And as a result, he got the nickname Whispering Death. And I think that is such a great nickname for Malaki Starks. So I'm trademarking that now. Don't anyone steal it unless they're going to give me credit for it. Now, the weaknesses of Starks. Even one of my favorite players in this class, yes, he's got weaknesses too. Positional value is going to be a knock on Starks, absolutely. How highly is a team drafting a safety? Especially if you're looking at, I have him as a top 10 player, but I appreciate that drafting a safety in the top 10, especially one that does not offer blitzing ability like a Kyle Hamilton or even, say, a Brian Branch, that's a bit of a trickier sell for an NFL GM. And because of that, him playing more and off coverage, again, he's not really going to line up in press. He's not really going to be that player that defensive player that you can move around and have on the line of scrimmage. And as a result, that might not be a fit for everyone. Some teams, maybe like the Vikings, might prefer a Nick Imanwari, where he can be on the line of scrimmage and be a blitzer, which allows him to be a bit more flexible in other certain positions. Malaki Starks can't really do that. But the bottom line with me for Starks is I just think he's so damn good. And I can really see a situation, a bit like Brian Branch, who I don't think was as good as Starks, but I could see a Brian Branch scenario where Starks falls out of the first round and a team's going to get him on day 2 in the second. And we're going to look back in 3, 4, 5 years' time and think, how the hell did that team get Malaki Starks in the second round? Because he's already become one of the best defensive players in the league. That's how much I love Malaki Starks. That's why he's a my guy. My 5th and penultimate my guy is Jayden Higgins, the wide receiver from Iowa State. And he's a my guy because I am seeing so much more potential with him than I think so many others are seeing. He's 6'4", 214 pounds. I think he's got the physicality and size to hold up as an ex-wide receiver. He's not just a power slot like a lot of people are projecting him. He moves so well for his size. I think he's got a really good release package versus press. He's surprisingly really agile for 6'4". He moves really well, and he's got really good ball skills. 2 drops, 58% contested catch rate. This guy ticks so many boxes that I personally look for when I'm evaluating wide receivers, which is the ability to play outside, beat press coverage, be that guy. You know, can you be him? I think Jayden Higgins can be him. Now, with weaknesses with Jayden Higgins, he does have the top speed. He ran a 4.47, which is really good. But he lacks that explosiveness off the line of scrimmage to really burn defenders. You can win at 3 different points in the route. You can win at the release, so immediately. You can win during the route itself, so it's kind of secondary. And you can win at the catch point, which is that part where the ball's literally in the air and you're just bigger, stronger, better than the defensive back you're going against. I would like to see Jayden Higgins win more at that release point because it allows him to have a lot more room for error later in the route, basically. Now, he does also annoyingly let balls into his frame, which allows defenders to make a play on the ball. Inherently, letting balls into your frame isn't a bad thing. A lot of wide receiver coaches will tell you that it is. But in the NFL, when you're really some of the best receivers in the game, Justin Jefferson is the best in the league at doing this. Letting the ball into your frame, first of all, is probably the only way to catch some balls because good defensive backs will hook their hand underneath or over the top of yours so you can't have both hands to catch the ball. So you have to use your chest as that way to secure it. But also, secondly, in certain situations, you kind of have to let it into your chest. And really why it's a bad thing, though, with Higgins is because he doesn't quite use it in the right way. He's letting balls into his chest that he doesn't need to let into his chest. And what that does is it allows the defensive back to make a play on it. Because if you catch the ball away from your chest, the defensive back is trying to hit your arms. If it comes into your chest, the defensive back can punch the ball out or have his hands in between your hands and make it an incomplete throw. So that's what I would like to see Higgins be able to do. He also, now this is a bit unfair, and I'm going to say why. My initial grievance with Higgins is that I thought that he needed to get better at winning down the sideline, deep down the field, to be that true X wide receiver. You need your X to be a vertical threat. However, the key data points here is that 29% of Jayden Higgins' targets were fade routes, were go balls, so run straight down the sideline. 42 of these were thrown at him this year at Iowa State. Only 16 of them were catchable, and he caught all 16. So I think a big reason why the more advanced stats and why there are a lot of plays that aren't quite there on his tape, I think a reason for that is frankly the offense and the quarterback play. And for me, the bottom line with Jayden Higgins is that I think you're getting a floor, a bit like with Will Campbell. I think as a floor, you're getting a great power slot. But I think as a ceiling, you could get a T. Higgins-esque X wide receiver. And I know Higgins has moved as well, but in that kind of mold of that big X wide receiver. He needs a bit of development to get there, don't get me wrong, but that's the potential I see with Higgins. He's a firm first round pick for me. I think he's my wide receiver 3 or 4. I'm super, super high on this guy. And that's why he's a my guy. My sixth and final my guy is Carson Schwesinger, the linebacker from UCLA. And the reason why I love this guy so much and why he's on this list is because I literally just finished watching him. And on my previous top 50 big board, which he wasn't in, and subscribe for more draft content if you haven't already, click the button down there. But he wasn't in my top 50. And he's going to be in my revamped big board, which I'll drop just before the draft. He is really, really good. Definitely going to be the LB2 behind Jihad Campbell and definitely in front of Jalen Walker, who is not a my guy whatsoever. Maybe I'll do a non-my guys episode. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments. Carson Schwesinger flies downhill. He is so great at making plays at the line of scrimmage. For me, linebacker play is about 3 things. Can you make plays at the line of scrimmage? Can you offer pass rushing ability either off the edge or as a blitzer? And can you cover? And Carson Schwesinger can absolutely make plays around the line of scrimmage. The first play I watched of Schwesinger, which is why he's a my guy, I think, is the play against Minnesota. First play, turn on the Minnesota tape, and he's lined up as a middle linebacker. It's like a toss or a run play behind the line of scrimmage, outside zone going to the left, and he just diagnoses it immediately. He flies downhill, ducks under the block from the offensive lineman, tackles the running back for a loss of yards. It was just a quintessential, amazing linebacker play. He's got a really quick trigger. He's great in diagnosing those plays. He can take on blocks really well and uses his hands nicely to combat them. That's him consistently making those plays at the line of scrimmage. And that second box I was talking about, can you rush the passer either as a blitzer or off the edge? Carson Schwesinger is a really surprisingly good pass rusher. He displayed genuine pass rushing ability, not just, I'm a blitzer and the offensive line can't deal with the amount of bodies, or I'm coming late and the offensive line hasn't seen me coming. This guy has a bag of pass rush moves, which he can use, and he has an understanding of how to rush the passer and how to implement those moves. And so he ticks those 2 boxes for me 100%. Now, the downside with Schwesinger and why he's going to be drafted in the second round and not any earlier, I think, is because he does lack those top-end physical tools, which I think a lot of teams in the NFL are looking for. Right? We're seeing like the linebacker from the Bucks, White. Is it White? Anyway, we see these linebackers who get drafted in the first round because they have unbelievable physical tools, who are terrible in the league because linebacker is such a cerebral position. It's not just about, are you athletic? But we see those guys who got taken in the first round with great athletic traits just keep being given more opportunities. Devin White, that's who it is, Devin White. And they're not very good. And I think Schwesinger is almost the opposite of that. He doesn't have those physical tools, and you can see it. He's got 47th percentile arm length. He's got 67th percentile bench press, so he's not that strong either. He's got shorter arms. He's only 6'2", 242 pounds. That is on the lighter side, even in the modern NFL, where defenses are trending lighter to kind of match up with the more pass-heavy offenses, but nevertheless, still a bit light. And he doesn't have a great anchor. I've seen him end up on his arse like 3 times a game. And that, as a linebacker, is the worst place to be because you have absolutely zero impact on the play if you're on the ground with an offensive lineman lying on top of you. So that he definitely needs to clean up. And really, for me, what it really comes down to for Schwesinger is that he's only played the position for 1 year, so he's still developing those kind of like diagnostic tools and understanding how to take on blocks and things like that. And with a linebacker, I think second only to quarterback, it's the hardest position to translate to the NFL because the hash marks are shorter or thinner in the NFL. Offensive linemen can block RPOs up to 3 yards rather than 1 yard, so they just get spammed, the RPOs. And really, NFL offenses and quarterbacks look to pick on linebackers, either with misdirection or, whatever it might be. And if you're a young linebacker, right, even someone like Jack Campbell, it takes minimum of a year, 2 years for any young linebacker to really get up to speed with the league, the physicality, the play diagnostics, the defensive playbooks. And really, with Schwesinger, with him kind of being a bit lighter, not having those top-end physical tools, which do undeniably make that jump from the NFL, from college to the NFL easier, how's he going to handle that jump? Which for me, I think scares me the most about Schwesinger. But for really the bottom line here is that, as I said, I hope I said it, as I said, linebacker is about floor. It's about not making mistakes. It's about diagnosing plays. And I think Schwesinger has the instincts and athleticism and really the mentality to be a decent linebacker. I think there's questions about his overall ceiling because of those lack of traits and because of his lack of experience only being a 1 year starter. But I love what you're getting as a potential in Schwesinger. Yeah, he'll be a second round player, so he might not start right away, which is great. But ultimately, if you can develop Schwesinger, I think you're going to get a damn good linebacker. So don't be surprised if he does eventually become that. So here you can see a list of all of my guys I've just gone over. This isn't even an exhaustive list, right? I really love Tez Johnson. I really love Kyle Williams. There are other defensive players I love as well. But this is my list. What do you guys think of it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Who are your guys? Let me know in the comments. Make sure you subscribe for more NFL draft content. We're on the way to 1,000 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate the support and really appreciate it if you subscribe. But I've been your host, Dom Corbs. This has been Corbs NFL. We'll see you on the next video.